I've been hearing a lot recently in the kind of debate bro sphere, these discussions about objective morality. Usually it's coming from a kind of presuppositionalist Christian evangelical type, you know, your Andrew Wilsons and your Jay Dyers of the world that argue in favor of objective morality through divine command theory. Basically, that the only way to ground your morality objectively would be through an all powerful, all knowing being. And I don't believe that I've ever heard a solid justification for this belief from any of these guys. I actually find it astounding that anybody listens to their arguments on objective morality and finds them compelling whatsoever. I think the fundamental problem with the belief in objective morality through divine command theory especially is that, these Andrew Wilson types, they believe that objective truth claims can be derived from subjective beliefs. Either that, or they believe that their faith is not subjective, which is incoherent. Of course their belief in God is subjective. They can't prove it. And so, really, the most simple retort to divine command theorists is to say, well, unless you can prove the existence of your God that you're deferring to, you're deferring to a subject in order to make your objective claims, which is fallacious. You can't derive objective truth claims from a subjective belief. It's not possible. And these Andrew Wilson types, they like to kind of argue. Like, one of Andrew Wilson's favorites is he asks people, like, oh, what if I pulled out a gun and shot you in the head right now? How could you tell me that I was wrong? How could you say that doing so was wrong? And I, I, I don't think the focus here should be, on morality necessarily. The deeper issue isn't whether shooting me in the head is wrong is a morally true claim or not. The deeper issue is whether or not this decision can be settled with reason. And if it can't, so if it's underdetermined and reasoning isn't forcing any single choice, then the most logical way, the most objective way to go about it would be deferring to, a third party arbitrator, which is what Andrew Wilson is doing. It's just he's deferring to God as his arbitrator, the Christian God. And he's justifying that arbitration through faith and mystical thinking, which is not logical and not objective. The more I think about objective morality in general, the less sense that it makes to me, and the less that I even know what that would really look like. I don't think it necessarily logically follows that because a being created the universe and created life, that all of its moral claims would therefore be true. And even if a deity such as the Christian God exists and its morals are true, then I don't see the motivation for me to follow said morality other than escaping torture escaping eternal hellfire. And therefore, if the main motivating reason for following God's objective morality is to avoid hellfire, well, then you're really no different from a consequentialist. It's just you think the ultimate consequence to avoid is hell, and you don't want to offend God or disobey God's morality because he will torture you. So at the end of the day, you're really just a consequentialist. If you are a presuppositionalist, objective morality, realist, divine command theory guy, I'm not really sure how you solve a disagreement with somebody that's using your same religious justifications for their arguments. So if, I had a different religion and my religion told me that it was morally good to murder you, but your religion, the Christian religion says that it's morally evil to murder, I'm not really sure how you solve that disagreement. We're both just kind of deferring to our religion for our justifications, and we're both deferring to faith. And so I'm just not really sure how you would solve that disagreement. There are some moral objectivists that are atheists as well, and they usually argue through an evolutionary basis for their belief in objective morality, saying that, morality is objective because it's just objectively what we need in order to survive. It created objective imperatives for cooperation, etc., to ensure like groups thrive together. But if morality is just a product of evolution, which I believe it is, then it's still not objectively right or wrong. It's just kind of, a functional adaptation for survival. You still can't really ground it in anything mind independent and objective. In conclusion, I don't really believe that morality can be justified mind independently. I don't believe it can ever really be objective. I believe morality evolved in a Darwinian manner and was simply useful for human survival. This is why there's a sort of rough commonality around the world regarding values we put on our interactions with others, regardless of what religion that society follows. Obviously, there are exceptions, but they're few and far between. These kind of basic, near universal rules of reciprocity, helping your tribe, deferring to some type of authority, not harming others, helping your family. These are pretty universal human behaviors, and I don't believe that we would have evolved to have these instincts if we were, say, non-social animals. To me, this supports the idea that morality evolves in a Darwinian manner. I don't believe that we would have any of the morals that we have now if we evolved as completely isolationist species. Our morality exists purely because it was beneficial for our survival and for our in-group cooperation. Anyways, um, what are your thoughts on objective morality? Do you think it can ever really be justified? And what would an objective moral even really look like conceptually? Even if, a moral truth existed, what would be your motivation to follow it outside of, threats of eternal hellfire? Um, I'd like to know your thoughts. And that's it. See ya.